guys doing? I'm Dan, or I'm Leslie. This is Dan, and we're going to get started in just a second. I'm going to give people a little bit of time to find the email in their inbox and click the link and probably get some sort of warning that they have to update something. I can see Sarah's here. Hello, Sarah. A couple other people coming in. Okay, hello. So, I don't know where you guys are located, but Dan and I are in Colorado, and it is a warm day here. It is crazy how warm the weather has been here. We have just not had enough snow to go snowboarding like we usually do. So it's a bit crazy, but I hope the weather is good where you are. And I'm just gonna wait. Well, it's just now 11, so I'll probably wait another minute or two. And we'll get started. And yes, these are recorded, so I'll make sure that you are getting a recording of this. But if you have to drop off, but obviously we'll have time at the end for questions. Sarah, where are you located? Okay. Barcelona. Ooh, how fun. Okay. Another 30 seconds and we will get going. Okay. Okay. So let's get going. And just again, for the people who just joined, obviously this will be recorded. If you have to bail, we'll send you the recording, but hope that you'll stay. I think this should only take about half an hour, and then you'll have time to ask questions at the end. And we're just really glad you're here. So I'm Leslie, and Dan is, it looks like his screen is off right now, but he's in the background. And he's going to be answering any questions that come up in the chat. And then if it's like a bigger question, we might wait to the end, or he might interrupt me and say, hey, Leslie, you need to go over this right now. And he's also, he'll jump in where I maybe leave a gap in what we're talking about.
Yeah, I'm here. I think I am on camera, but I'm going to go off camera after this.
Okay.
Yeah.
And yes, for those of you wondering, we are married and we own the company together. So let us get started and jump on in. Okay. So this is not a session that's going to bash Zapier, because Zapier really, what it does, it's really good at doing. This is going to be about how sending another email isn't necessarily the thing that is going to fill the gaps in your revenue model, and why that's the case. And you know what? I'm going to go and there, so you don't have to look at our faces while I'm doing this. Okay. So this, the information here is for you if you're using FareHarbor. We only integrate with FareHarbor, though. If you're not using FareHarbor, I'd encourage you to still stay and hear about why going beyond what Zapier does is really important. And it's for people who feel like, oh, Zapier is probably, email something we're probably supposed to do. I've tried it. I'm thinking about trying it. I feel like I should be doing more, but I don't know what the heck I'm doing. So here is what we usually see with people who are using Zapier, or even people who aren't using Zapier when they think about what is email marketing. Usually they hear or they kind of think about sending a newsletter. So first, you've got to stop what you're doing operationally, running tours, managing people, and then you've got to figure out, okay, when's the time that I can actually sit down at my computer and write out the email, and what am I going to say in it? And then I have to actually build it, and then they send it to everybody on their list, and it's usually after people have taken a tour, which doesn't work for destinations for sure. But that's the process people think of when they hear email marketing. So what we want you to think about as we go through these the Zapier information is not, should I use email marketing for my business, but do I want to stop revenue leaks in my business? Because sending more emails isn't the answer to stopping the revenue gaps. But if you're doing Zapier, or you're thinking about doing Zapier, again, it's a great tool doing what it's supposed to do. But it doesn't stop the revenue leaks. And a lot of times what's interesting to me is that it doesn't look like revenue loss on your side, right? Because the system isn't failing. So Zapier's doing what it's supposed to do. Um, and it doesn't hold context. And we'll talk about what that means in a little bit. But when you're using a tool that just reacts to things, like reacts to a booking, and just grabs the email address, but doesn't understand where that person is in the journey across time with you, then you lose the ability to capture revenue around four distinct areas. And we'll go through that in just a little bit. So here's kind of examples. This is definitely not everything, but examples of where that kind of silent revenue loss is happening. At the beginning, when people come to your website, you have people who are looking around. They don't even get to a quote unquote cart that FareHarbor has, and they leave without buying. And they might like what they see, but they can't remember what they were looking at, or they forget about it because their kid just spilled oatmeal everywhere. And then if they make a purchase with you, then that booking is kind of followed by silence. So they're not getting information, additional information they might need from you about the tour. Especially think about people, if you're in a destination. We heard Sarah was from Barcelona earlier. I'd love to go to Barcelona. One day I'll be able to, but I probably will only go there one time. And so let's say that I'm getting ready. I'm 3 months in advance. I book the tour with you, and then I hear nothing from you for the next 3 months. And I might be like, okay, I hope everything's okay. Because afterward, it's just kind of followed by silence. And then I know many people try to upsell their other tours, like maybe add-ons, maybe a different tour altogether. And that's tucked into the confirmation email. And I'm going to tell you, when people are looking at a confirmation email, they do not have "let me buy something else" on their mind, because they just spent money with you. So those upsells, if they're even seen, they're ignored. And then there's the reset at the bottom. So you've got OTA guests, so people coming in from TripAdvisor or Get Your Guide. You have no way of making those people your customer instead of the OTA's customer. So that relationship fails. And you don't have a way of saying, okay, these are people who might come back and I need to market to them. And these are people who are probably never coming back. So let me get rid of those email addresses and stop paying for them. These are all the ways, or I should say, these are all of these are examples of ways that you let revenue slip through the cracks. But again, this is not exhaustive by any means. But when you're using Zapier to push the email address from FareHarbor into your email system, it feels right? Because you can say, yes, I'm doing automation. I'm automatically moving those email addresses over, or I'm trying to connect with people because I'm moving the email address over, or I can check the email box of, done that. Yes, we do email. I feel good there. I'm done. But the problem is that Zapier, the way it works, is again perfect. This isn't Zapier bashing. It does exactly what it's supposed to. It acts on single condition logic. It doesn't understand the journey. And here's what I mean by that. In Zapier, when you get a booking, it grabs the email address, maybe the name of the tour for a tag, and pushes that over into your email tool. And, that's usually a Zap or two kind of holding the things together. But it doesn't understand what the booking date is and what the tour date is, and how many days are in between on any given day. So, you could put over there, you could calculate, for example, okay, there were 75 days between the booking date and the tour date, but tomorrow there's going to be 74 days. So that days until tour is not sliding with the current moment. You have a hard time capturing who attended and somebody else paid for their ticket versus who actually booked the tour. You don't know who has added or who has skipped add-ons. And especially even if you're tagging people, it's not capturing enough information to make smart decisions. Because let's say you tag somebody with upsell 1. So you think to yourself, okay, I'm not going to send them an email to try to get them to buy upsell 1 because they're tagged with it, they've already bought it. But you have no idea when they were tagged with it. Was it a year ago that they bought that? Was it yesterday that they bought that? And so you can't make a smart decision with that. You're not able to tie the waiver, the guests of your the email addresses that come through from your waiver guests back to the booking so that you can send upsells to those people. You're not able to match the waiver emails with an OTA booking, because an OTA like TripAdvisor, Viator, whatever, they don't send you the email address. They don't want you to have that customer journey. They're just really excited that now they have someone that they can upsell somebody else's tours to. And we want you to have that customer connection. So you aren't able to go back with Zapier and recover those email addresses. You don't understand the intention of the person who's coming to your site because you don't know what their previous behavior is. You don't know how many times they've been to the site, before they booked, after they booked, before the tour happened, after the tour happened. You have no insight into any of that. But again, Zapier's doing exactly what it's supposed to do. But I want to give you something else to think about. Instead of thinking, how can I send an email? Or what should I send in my email? Or why the heck would I even do email? Think about where there's hidden revenue possibilities. So when interest hesitates, in my mind, that is when somebody comes to your site, they're looking around, maybe you're the first dolphin tour that they've looked at, and they think, well, this looks fantastic, but I'm going to go look at a couple more just to see what's out there. So they're hesitating even though they're interested, and then they're gone. When they're trying to make decisions about what to do, but it feels, I use the word fragile here, but it could be volatile, might be a better term for that, in that right after they just spent money with you, they're probably going to not be excited about spending more money with you. But as their excitement increases over time as they get closer to the time they're going to show up with you. They're more likely to spend. So this is the next slide, probably a little bit hard to read, and I will make sure to send a copy of this, a readable copy of this, along with the recording. But this is where we see the ability to capture value. And instead of in the booking, which is what Zapier handles so well, we want you to be able to capture value being additional revenue, obviously, but also additional customer satisfaction and decreased cost of running your business. We want you to be able to capture that in every moment of the customer journey, from the time they show up on your site trying to figure out what to do until they're completely done with your tours. So I'm not going to go into this in great detail here. We're going to look at sections of this in just a second. But what I want to point out is that this is essentially a timeline from when they show up to your site. The next column is after they've booked. And the next column would be the middle two columns are after they book, but before they show up. We call that the sweet spot. And it's between, in FareHarbor, the booking date and the tour date. And that's when a lot of revenue potential is out there for you. Again, on the front end of that and on the back end of that as well. But I just want to point out that it is a flow in time, a journey that they're taking. And the check marks you see here are the things that Zapier cannot do to help you recover that revenue. So let's go in a little bit more detail. And we call this the tour framework. The first thing is traffic. So this is when people are coming to your site. You need automation to capture the people who come up, show some sort of interest in you, and then leave without buying. You need the ability to capture those leads without having to offer revenue as part of that effort. And then we really encourage you to send welcome series. When, as we were looking back over some of our recent customers who really put a lot of effort into their welcome series, again, pulls them out as soon as they make an order. But this is where they're making a ton of money. I think of it as like courting people back. But if your email system does do browse abandonment, and not very many of them do, then it's not able to do smart browse abandonment unless you know when the order, that an order happened, when they made the order, and when they're showing up. Because you need to know, you don't want to send a browse abandonment email, especially one that offers a discount, if they've already purchased, right? So you need to know if they've already purchased and when they purchased. And you also need to know if they've already if they're coming to the site and they already took the tour. You don't want to offer them the worst thing would be they're back home, they're telling their friend about their adventure with you, showing some pictures on your website, and then you send them a coupon for a tour they just took that was full price. That doesn't increase customer satisfaction. And the only way that you can do that is by understanding where they are in the journey, before they bought, in the middle of buying, and showing up, or afterward. The O is when they take an order. So what a smart automation system will do is offer pre-tour reminders. Now, I know FareHarbor gives you the ability to send a pre-tour reminder. Incredible. But what we hear over and over is, I can just do it once. With you need the ability to send a pre-tour reminder maybe shortly after they book, and then maybe a reminder midway if you have a large booking window. And maybe you want to send an email 30 minutes before they're supposed to show up, reminding them where to park, or what to wear, or what to bring, or what to not bring. So that's kind of what I mean by logistics. And you want to set expectations with them. So if you've got a big booking window, send them emails in between that say, even, we're really excited to have you. Just a reminder, your tour is only a month away. Here's a beautiful picture that you need to look at in order to get excited again. Obviously, you wouldn't say it that way, but you want to make sure that you're keeping them happy, that or that they know that they're supposed to be showing up. And if somebody buys an order or buys a ticket for your tour through an OTA, you want to be able to get that email address. In order to do upsells in between the times they show up, they book and the time they show up, if possible. And if it is a local, if you have locals that take your tours, then that email becomes valuable even afterward, because you want a review request. You want a review request from all the other people on that tour, and you want to do nurture that customer in order to bring them back in the future. I am going to turn off our window here because the next slide is a little bit big. But the next one is upsells. So what automation can do for you outside of what Zapier can do includes making sure the right add-ons are there. Offer people the ability to take a second tour, or to change their tour over to a private tour. Now, can you do that with Zapier? Yes, you can get an email address and you can shoot over the right email based on how they were tagged. But again, you don't know where they are in the process, so you can't send a smart email to them. It's almost like a blind email, like you're playing pin the tail on the donkey. If you're part of the FareHarbor distribution network, then you can include those in the upsells. If you have maybe not a lot of tours to offer people, or secondary tours, or not all of your tours have upsells, then consider using the distribution network. If you have different dashboards, maybe because you have different brands, different experiences, sometimes our customers have different dashboards just because they're in different locations, then your upsells and cross sells can talk to each other. If the person bought a tour with dashboard A and you've got a dashboard B where that location is nearby and offers a complimentary type of tour, then you can upsell that tour. And what's great is the lifetime value can roll up. You need to know the behavior of that guest and the lifetime value of that guest, regardless of which one of your dashboards or websites that they're touching. And the timing matters here, right? You don't want to pressure them, but what you want to do is be relevant, and that window of relevancy is short. So you want to be able to talk to them 3 days before, 7 days before, 1 day before, 30 minutes before. And of course, you want all your OTA guests and attendees to be able to get an upsell or a review request. And again, that's not part of the single step that Zapier takes. That requires understanding the entire guest journey. And then finally is the reset. Obviously, in the end, you want a review, and that's part of the reset. But additionally, most tour operators we have experience with have some combination of local versus tourist. Sometimes locals are like 5%, sometimes locals are 50%. But what we know is that when somebody's a local, they have a higher chance of buying from you again, maybe coming back to an event, maybe bringing their family. And if they're a tourist in a destination city, then it's very unlikely that they're going to come back. And so you don't want to keep that email address around, because an email address costs you money. And When you send an email, let's say you have a tour in Hawaii and you have a guest that's come from Germany, it does not feel relevant to that German tourist when 6 months later you send them an invitation inviting them to a luau. It doesn't make any sense to them. And so even if you choose to keep those tourist email addresses around, you want to be sure that the emails you're sending to them are relevant, right? Because we hear all the time about how email is the highest ROI on your money, but that only happens when you're speaking to the right person at the right time. It's about clarity. It's never about volume in and of itself. Afterward, with those locals, if you've got locals, you can nurture those people by sending timed emails that you create one time and they go out for an entire year. And you don't have to worry about newsletters, which are, again, finding time, figuring out what to write, setting down, sending it to everybody. That doesn't work. And then obviously, again, I said you want to get reviews from every adult that's taken your tour. So this customer journey, we call it in the moment marketing, right person, right time, right message. And when you do that, your prospects get re-engaged. Your guests show up on time. Your upsells happen naturally because you're helping and not selling. Your reviews grow exponentially because you're including people with who purchase from the OTAs and all of the attendees. Your locals stay connected and feel like part of your family. And the tourists on your list exit cleanly without you having to pay. And insights into all of this are visible on a company-wide dashboard. So whether you've got one dashboard or you've got 5 dashboards, the dashboard in your email system should show you everything from a company perspective as well as a branded perspective. And that's what we call the tour advantage. And again, same graphic I showed you earlier. You can see we talked about most of the actions that happen here on this timeline. But again, I just want to point out so many things that are important for you to stop revenue leaks that can't be done with Zapier. And here's just a quick summary of that. So Zapier isn't built for tour logic, obviously. Most e-commerce transactions you don't need to know the difference between when somebody bought it and when they're using it. In tours, that's different. That in between space holds a lot of revenue opportunity, and it's usually not available. I can't think of many tools it's available in except, FareHarbor and Tour Advantage. It understands, Zapier doesn't understand the guest journey. They don't understand that timing about how many days until you are showing up for the tour. They don't associate waiver email addresses with bookings, which means that's not helpful from a reviews perspective for attendees, but it's definitely not, doesn't allow you to really market to the OTA guests and build relationships with those people, so that customer isn't really your customer. They're the OTA's customer. It doesn't allow you to do smart browse abandonment or upsell at the exact right time. It doesn't give you cross dashboard metrics and insights or multi-dashboard marketing opportunities. And it doesn't allow you to connect the attendees' email addresses to the order. These are all the reasons why we built Tour Advantage, because it's so much more valuable as a tour operator to be able to understand that full journey and not just push over a tag and an email address, send out an email after the tour is over, cross your fingers, and pin the tail on the donkey. So Zapier, again, not Zapier bashing. Dan and I use Zapier, for example, in our own CRM tool, but Zapier is really good at sending an email or pushing an email address over, I guess I should say, from your FareHarbor bookings. But like we've seen, just sending more email addresses isn't going to fix that revenue leak. You need a tool that showcases the entire customer journey. So hopefully from that, you've gotten an understanding of why we think that Zapier isn't the right solution for people who are using FareHarbor. And I'm definitely open to any questions you might have. Would be happy to answer those. You can put them in the chat. How would you recommend you treat a customer who has multiple upcoming bookings? How do you communicate relevance and make sure not to overwhelm? Super duper question. What we would recommend is making sure that a person is only in one workflow at a time. And then you can also add checks to your workflows that say, making sure people aren't getting too many email addresses at once. And if you have common pairings, then you might even want to create a workflow for that. And while you might say, oh, okay, I have to create a workflow for that. Well, that's one time. It might take you half an hour to accomplish, and then forever else, you're in good shape. Dan, do you, I know you've been building workflows for people. Do you want to make any additional comments about that question?
No, I think that's good. I mean, with the tool we use primarily, which is Drip, makes it really easy to do things like say, don't send this same email more than once to the person. We only want them to get this once. So if you had them in a certain upsell workflow, like Leslie mentioned, they go into that once, they wouldn't get the email again. So yeah, you definitely don't want to over communicate, but it's those kind of mini communications that correspond with their journey, from booking to coming to visit with you, that we feel they're actually looking for. We know they're actually looking for this because we see so much better open rates and click-through rates on these automated in-the-moment marketing emails than we do on the newsletters.
Yeah, I was just actually working on a case study with a customer of ours. Their newsletter open rate was 14%, and the click-through was like 1 or 2%. And then their upsell emails, the open rate was like 70-something%, and the click-through rate was like 15%, maybe more than that. I'm just going off my memory here, but it's always better. And we know that, or I should say, it's always better when you're sending right person, right time, right message. And we know that works because we can see those open rates and click-through rates increase exponentially when they're done in that way. Anybody else? It's a quiet group today. Anybody? Okay, wow, we finished pretty early. If you have any questions, you can always get in touch with us, info@sunstonedigitalmarketing.com, or schedule a demo with us, or just a conversation. Head over to sunstonedigitalmarketing.com, and there's information there to set up that meeting. So thank you guys so much for showing up. Have a great week.